In the midst of the vast, unexplored oceans of the ancient world, there existed a civilization so advanced and magnificent that it has captured the imaginations of countless generations. Atlantis, the fabled island, was a realm of unparalleled beauty and sophistication, a beacon of human achievement shrouded in the mists of time. According to ancient accounts, Atlantis was not just a city, but an entire continent, a land blessed with natural wonders and inhabited by a people whose technological and cultural advancements rivaled those of the greatest civilizations known to history. Picture a sprawling landscape where lush green valleys met towering mountain ranges, their peaks lost in the clouds. The island's terrain was a harmonious blend of fertile plains, dense forests, and rolling hills, all nurtured by a climate that seemed to be perpetually mild and temperate. At the heart of Atlantis stood its capital, a city of awe-inspiring grandeur, meticulously planned and built with an eye for both beauty and function. The city was a marvel of engineering and architecture, a testament to the ingenuity and vision of its inhabitants. The layout of the capital was nothing short of a masterpiece. At its center, a majestic temple dedicated to Poseidon, the god of the sea, soared into the sky, its walls adorned with intricate carvings and shimmering with gold and precious stones. Surrounding the temple were the royal palaces, each one more splendid than the last, their marble facades glistening in the sunlight. The streets were lined with statues and fountains, depicting the gods and heroes of Atlantean lore, each one a work of art in its own right. Canals as wide and deep as rivers crisscrossed the city, serving as both a means of transportation and a source of water for the people. Bridges, crafted from stone and metal, spanned these waterways, their arches reflecting gracefully in the clear blue waters below. The markets buzzed with activity, where traders from across the world bartered exotic goods, spices, silks, and gemstones with the local merchants. The air was filled with the scent of fresh flowers and the sound of music, creating an atmosphere of perpetual celebration. It was a civilization built on principles of balance and harmony, where the physical, spiritual, and intellectual aspects of life were given equal importance. The Atlanteans valued knowledge above all else, and their pursuit of learning was evident in the countless libraries, schools, and academies that dotted the landscape. Education was not just a privilege, but a fundamental right, accessible to all citizens regardless of their social standing. Atlantis, however, was more than just a center of learning and culture. It was also a formidable power. Its military might was unmatched, with a fleet of ships that could rival any navy in the world. The soldiers of Atlantis were renowned for their discipline and skill, trained from a young age in the arts of war. Yet, they were also philosophers and poets, warriors who valued peace and diplomacy as much as they did strength and conquest. As the sun set over the horizon, casting a golden glow across the land, the city of Atlantis would come alive with light. Torches and lamps illuminated the streets, casting long shadows across the marble walls and reflecting in the still waters of the canals. The night was filled with the sounds of laughter and music as the people of Atlantis gathered in their homes and public spaces to celebrate their achievements and to honor the gods who had blessed their land. This was Atlantis at its peak, a civilization that seemed destined to endure for eternity, a beacon of hope and progress in a world still shrouded in darkness. Yet, even in its moment of greatest glory, the seeds of its downfall were being sown, hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The architectural splendor of Atlantis was nothing short of a marvel, a testament to the ingenuity and artistry of its people. The city, meticulously designed and executed, stood as a symbol of harmony between nature and human creation, where every structure served both aesthetic and functional purposes. The Atlanteans, known for their engineering prowess, constructed a city that not only catered to the needs of its inhabitants, but also reflected their deep spiritual and cultural beliefs. At the heart of the city stood the Grand Temple of Poseidon, the most revered structure in Atlantis. This temple, dedicated to the god who was believed to be the protector and patron of the island, was a sight to behold. The temple was built on a hill, its towering spires visible from every corner of the city. It was constructed from materials sourced from the very earth of Atlantis, white, black, and red stones, each symbolizing different aspects of life and divinity. The walls of the temple were adorned with intricate carvings, depicting scenes from Atlantean mythology, battles of the gods, and the creation of the world. The golden statues of Poseidon and other deities, encrusted with precious gems, dominated the interior, casting a divine aura over the sacred space. Surrounding the temple were the royal palaces, the homes of the rulers and the elite of Atlantis. These palaces were architectural masterpieces, combining luxury with practicality. Each palace was unique, designed to reflect the personality and achievements of its occupants. Marble columns, grand arches, and expansive courtyards were common features, but what set these palaces apart were their lush gardens filled with exotic plants, fountains, and statues. The gardens were not merely decorative, they were designed to be places of reflection and meditation, where the rulers could connect with nature and seek divine guidance. The layout of the city itself was a reflection of the Atlanteans' advanced understanding of urban planning. The city was organized into concentric rings, with the innermost ring housing the temple and royal palaces, symbolizing the spiritual and political center of Atlantis. Radiating outward from the center were the homes of the citizens, markets, and public spaces. These rings were separated by wide canals filled with crystal clear water that not only served as transportation routes, but also as a source of water for irrigation and everyday use. The canals were crossed by numerous bridges, each one a work of art in its own right, built from stone and adorned with carvings and sculptures. The marketplaces of Atlantis were vibrant hubs of activity, where traders from across the known world would come to exchange goods. The market stalls, arranged in orderly rows, offered a dazzling array of products: spices from the east, textiles from far-off lands, and precious metals mined from the depths of the earth. The Atlanteans, known for their craftsmanship, displayed their own wares with pride, from finely crafted jewelry to intricate pottery. The markets were not just places of commerce, but also social spaces where ideas were exchanged and news from distant lands was shared. Public spaces in Atlantis were designed with the community in mind. Parks and plazas dotted the city, offering residents places to gather, celebrate festivals, or simply enjoy the beauty of their surroundings. The Atlanteans placed great importance on public art, and the city was filled with statues, murals, and fountains that depicted scenes from their history and mythology. These artworks were not only aesthetically pleasing, but also served as reminders of the values and beliefs that held the society together. The infrastructure of Atlantis was both functional and beautiful. Roads paved with stone connected every part of the city, lined with trees that provided shade and added to the city's beauty. The Atlanteans also built extensive underground tunnels and aqueducts, ensuring that water and resources could be transported efficiently throughout the city. The city's ports were equally impressive, designed to accommodate the vast fleet of ships that were the pride of Atlantis. These ports were bustling with activity as merchants and sailors prepared for journeys to distant lands, bringing back goods and knowledge that would enrich Atlantean society. As one explored the city of Atlantis, it became clear that every aspect of its architecture and layout was designed with purpose. The city was a reflection of the Atlanteans' values: order, beauty, and harmony with nature. It was a place where the physical and spiritual worlds met, where every stone, every statue, and every building told a story of a civilization that had achieved greatness in every sense of the word. The daily life of the people of Atlantis was a reflection of their highly organized and sophisticated society, where every aspect of existence was imbued with purpose and meaning. The Atlanteans, who lived in a world of abundance, enjoyed a lifestyle that was both fulfilling and harmonious with their environment. Their society was structured around a deep respect for order, knowledge, and the natural world, which was evident in the way they conducted their daily activities. At the core of Atlantean society was a well-defined social structure. The ruling class, composed of the king and his council of nobles, governed the island with wisdom and fairness. The king, seen as a divine figure chosen by the gods, was not only a political leader, but also a spiritual guide. Below the rulers were the priests, who held significant power as the keepers of knowledge and mediators between the gods and the people. The common citizens, though not of noble birth, were respected for their contributions to the economy and culture of Atlantis. They were artisans, traders, farmers, and scholars, each playing a vital role in maintaining the prosperity of their civilization. The economy of Atlantis was thriving, supported by a network of trade routes that extended across the known world. The Atlanteans were skilled in agriculture, growing a variety of crops in the fertile plains that surrounded their cities. Wheat, barley, fruits, and vegetables were abundant, and the surplus was traded with other civilizations in exchange for goods that were not locally available. Livestock was also an essential part of their economy, with cattle, sheep, and goats providing meat, milk, and wool. The fishing industry, too, was a vital source of sustenance, with the Atlanteans taking full advantage of their coastal location to harvest the rich marine life of the surrounding waters. Craftsmanship was a highly respected profession in Atlantis. The artisans of the island were renowned for their skill in working with various materials, from gold and silver to stone and wood. They produced finely crafted jewelry, weapons, tools, and household items, all of which were highly sought after in trade. Their pottery, decorated with intricate designs and patterns, was particularly prized, and examples of Atlantean pottery have been found in archaeological sites far from the island, evidence of their extensive trade networks. Education was a cornerstone of Atlantean society, with a strong emphasis on the pursuit of knowledge. The Atlanteans believed that learning was essential for both personal development and the advancement of society as a whole. Schools and academies were abundant, where children and adults alike could study subjects ranging from mathematics and astronomy to philosophy and the arts. The curriculum was designed to cultivate critical thinking, creativity, and a deep understanding of the natural world. Teachers were highly respected, and education was accessible to all, regardless of social status. The libraries of Atlantis were vast repositories of knowledge, filled with scrolls and books that contained the wisdom of the ages. The people of Atlantis enjoyed a rich cultural life, with numerous festivals and celebrations marking the passage of time. These events were not only occasions for merriment, but also served as opportunities to reinforce social bonds and express gratitude to the gods. The Atlanteans celebrated the changing of the seasons, the harvest, and significant religious events with elaborate rituals, music, and dance. These festivals were communal affairs where people of all ages came together to share in the joy of life and the blessings of their bountiful land. Religion played a central role in the daily lives of the Atlanteans. The gods were believed to be ever present, guiding and protecting the people in all their endeavors. Temples dedicated to various deities were scattered throughout the city, where citizens could offer prayers, make sacrifices, and seek guidance. Religious rituals were an integral part of daily life, from the simple act of lighting a candle in the morning to elaborate ceremonies conducted by the priests. The Atlanteans believed that their prosperity was directly linked to the favor of the gods, and they took great care to maintain this divine connection through worship and piety. The social fabric of Atlantis was further strengthened by the close-knit nature of its communities. Families were the foundation of society, with strong bonds between parents, children, and extended relatives. The concept of community extended beyond the family unit, as neighbors often came together to support one another, whether in times of celebration or need. This sense of unity and mutual assistance was a key factor in the enduring stability and prosperity of Atlantean society. As the sun rose each day over the island, the people of Atlantis would begin their daily routines, secure in the knowledge that they were part of a thriving, balanced, and harmonious society. Their lives, while rich in material wealth, were also deeply spiritual and intellectually fulfilling, creating a culture that valued both the tangible and the intangible aspects of existence. It was this blend of practicality and spirituality that made Atlantis a civilization like no other, a place where the human spirit could flourish in all its forms. The people of Atlantis were as diverse and vibrant as the land they inhabited, with a culture that reflected their deep connection to the natural world and their advanced societal organization. Their appearance, clothing, customs, and religious practices were all expressions of a civilization that had reached a high level of sophistication, yet remained grounded in traditions that honored their ancestors and the gods. The clothing of the Atlanteans was both practical and elegant, designed to suit the mild climate of the island, while also reflecting the social status and occupation of the wearer. The common citizens who worked the land or crafted goods typically wore garments made from lightweight, breathable fabrics such as linen and cotton. These materials were often dyed in vibrant colors using natural pigments, with patterns and designs that were unique to each region of Atlantis. Tunics and robes were the most common forms of dress, with men and women alike favoring loose, flowing garments that allowed for ease of movement. Sandals, made from leather or woven fibers, were the standard footwear, providing comfort and durability for both city dwellers and those who worked in the fields. The elite of Atlantis, including the rulers and priests, adorned themselves in more elaborate attire that signified their status and power. Their garments were made from finer materials, such as silk and wool, imported through the vast trade networks that the Atlanteans maintained with other civilizations. These robes and tunics were often embellished with gold and silver threads, intricate embroidery, and precious gemstones, creating a visual display of wealth and authority. Jewelry played a significant role in Atlantean fashion, with both men and women wearing necklaces, bracelets, rings, and earrings crafted from gold, silver, and other precious metals. These pieces were not merely decorative, they often held symbolic meanings, representing the wearer's lineage, achievements, or spiritual beliefs. Customs and traditions were deeply ingrained in the daily lives of the Atlanteans, with each aspect of their culture serving to reinforce their connection to their heritage and the divine. Festivals were a central part of Atlantean life, with the entire community coming together to celebrate the cycles of nature, significant historical events, and religious observances. These festivals were marked by elaborate rituals, feasts, music, and dance, with each event meticulously planned to honor the gods and ensure the continued prosperity of the land. Religious practices in Atlantis were complex and varied, reflecting the polytheistic beliefs of the people. The gods of Atlantis were thought to be ever present, guiding and protecting the inhabitants in all their endeavors. Temples dedicated to these deities were scattered throughout the island, each one a center of worship and community activity. The Temple of Poseidon, the chief god of Atlantis, was the most significant of these sacred spaces, where priests conducted daily rituals and offered sacrifices on behalf of the people. The spiritual life of the Atlanteans was not confined to the temples. It permeated every aspect of their existence. The people believed in the concept of balance and harmony, both within themselves and with the natural world. This belief was reflected in their practices of meditation, prayer, and offerings, which were performed regularly to maintain a connection with the divine. The priests, who were the intermediaries between the gods and the people, played a crucial role in these practices, providing guidance, interpreting signs and omens, and ensuring that the rituals were carried out correctly. One of the most distinctive customs of the Atlanteans was their reverence for their ancestors. Ancestor worship was a common practice, with families maintaining shrines in their homes where they would offer food, drink, and other gifts to the spirits of their departed loved ones. These rituals were believed to keep the spirits content and ensure their continued protection over the family. The Atlanteans also believed that the spirits of their ancestors could influence the living, providing guidance and wisdom in times of need. Atlantean society placed a strong emphasis on education and the pursuit of knowledge, which was considered a sacred duty. The children of Atlantis were taught from a young age not only in the practical skills needed for daily life, but also in the arts, sciences, and philosophy. This education was intended to cultivate a well-rounded individual who could contribute to the greater good of society. The schools and academies of Atlantis were renowned for their excellence, attracting students from across the island and beyond. In addition to their intellectual pursuits, the people of Atlantis were also known for their artistic achievements. The arts were highly valued, with music, dance, and visual arts playing a central role in both public and private life. Atlantean music, characterized by the use of stringed instruments, flutes, and drums, was an integral part of religious ceremonies and festivals. Dance, too, was a significant cultural expression, with each region of Atlantis developing its own unique styles and movements that were passed down through generations. Visual arts in Atlantis were equally impressive, with the walls of public buildings, temples, and homes adorned with murals, carvings, and sculptures that depicted scenes from mythology, history, and daily life. These artworks were not merely decorative, they were imbued with symbolic meanings and served to educate, inspire, and remind the people of their shared values and beliefs. The people of Atlantis, through their customs, traditions, and artistic expressions, created a vibrant and enduring culture that was deeply connected to both their past and their present. It was this connection that helped them to build a society that was not only advanced and prosperous, but also rich in meaning and spiritual fulfillment. Atlantis was renowned for its unparalleled advancements in technology and innovation, which were considered far ahead of their time. The Atlanteans harnessed their profound understanding of the natural world to create a society that thrived on ingenuity, sustainability, and efficiency. Their technological achievements were integral to the success and longevity of their civilization, influencing every aspect of their daily lives, from transportation to agriculture to energy. One of the most remarkable aspects of Atlantean engineering was their mastery of infrastructure and transportation. The city was designed with a complex system of canals and waterways that not only enhanced the beauty of the city, but also served as efficient transportation routes. These canals were connected to a network of reservoirs and aqueducts that ensured a constant supply of fresh water throughout the island, a critical element in supporting both the population and agriculture. The bridges that spanned these canals were feats of engineering in themselves, constructed from stone and metal using techniques that allowed them to withstand the test of time and the elements. The Atlanteans were also pioneers in the development of sophisticated building techniques that enabled them to construct massive, enduring structures. Their buildings, from the grand temples to the intricate palaces, were constructed using a combination of stone, metals, and other materials sourced from their surroundings. The precision with which these materials were cut, shaped, and assembled reflected the Atlanteans' deep understanding of geometry and mathematics. They employed advanced tools and methods to ensure that their structures were not only aesthetically pleasing, but also structurally sound, capable of withstanding natural disasters such as earthquakes and floods. Agriculture in Atlantis was highly advanced, with the Atlanteans employing innovative methods to maximize the productivity of their fertile lands. They developed a system of terraced fields that allowed them to cultivate crops on the hillsides, effectively increasing the amount of arable land available to them. These terraces were irrigated by an intricate network of channels and sluices that directed water from the island's reservoirs to the fields, ensuring a steady and controlled supply of water throughout the growing season. The Atlanteans practiced crop rotation and soil management techniques that maintained the fertility of the land, preventing the depletion of essential nutrients and allowing for sustainable agricultural practices. In addition to their agricultural prowess, the Atlanteans were also skilled in resource management, particularly in the extraction and utilization of minerals and metals. Atlantis was rich in natural resources, and the people of the island developed sophisticated mining techniques to extract these materials efficiently. They utilized metals such as copper, tin, and gold in the production of tools, weapons, and ornaments, and they were among the first to alloy metals to create stronger and more durable products. The Atlanteans were known for their achievements in the fields of medicine, astronomy, and mathematics. They developed sophisticated techniques for diagnosing and treating illnesses, often using a combination of herbal remedies. Their understanding of the stars and the cosmos was also advanced, with Atlantean astronomers charting the movements of celestial bodies with great accuracy and using this knowledge for both practical purposes, such as navigation, and for spiritual practices. The legacy of Atlantean innovation was one of balance and harmony between nature and technology. The Atlanteans understood that their technological advancements had to be in harmony with the natural world, and they designed their society in a way that enhanced rather than disrupted the environment. This philosophy of sustainable development allowed them to create a civilization that was both advanced and enduring, leaving behind a legacy that continues to intrigue and inspire to this day. As the sun set on the great civilization of Atlantis, its technological achievements remained as testaments to the ingenuity and creativity of its people. The remnants of their innovations, though now lost to time and history, continue to spark the imagination and fuel the search for the secrets of this legendary society. The story of Atlantis has fascinated scholars and enthusiasts for centuries, and much of what we know about this legendary civilization comes from the writings of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. It is in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias that the myth of Atlantis is first introduced, setting the stage for the enduring mystery that continues to captivate imaginations today. Plato, who lived in the 4th century BCE, was a student of Socrates and a teacher of Aristotle. His works are among the most influential in Western philosophy, and his dialogues often explore profound questions about morality, politics, and the nature of reality. Timaeus and Critias are no exceptions. These dialogues delve into the origins of the universe, the nature of humanity, and the ideal society. It is within this rich philosophical context that Plato presents the tale of Atlantis. The story of Atlantis is recounted by Critias, one of the characters in the dialogue Timaeus. According to Critias, the tale of Atlantis was passed down through generations, originating from the great Athenian lawmaker Solon, who is said to have learned it from Egyptian priests during his travels. The priests described Atlantis as a powerful and technologically advanced civilization that existed around 9,000 years before Plato's time. Atlantis was a vast island located beyond the Pillars of Heracles, known today as the Strait of Gibraltar, and was said to be larger than Libya and Asia combined. Critias describes Atlantis as a highly organized society divided into 10 regions, each ruled by a king. These kings, all descendants of Poseidon, the god of the sea, governed their territories with wisdom and justice, following the laws inscribed on a pillar of orichalcum, a precious metal unique to Atlantis. The capital city, located at the heart of the island, was a marvel of engineering, with concentric rings of water and land, grand temples, and palaces that reflected the wealth and power of the Atlanteans. However, as the story unfolds, it becomes clear that Atlantis was not immune to the forces of corruption and decline. Over time, the Atlanteans became greedy and power-hungry, abandoning their virtuous ways in pursuit of conquest and domination. This moral decay did not go unnoticed by the gods, who, according to Critias, decided to punish Atlantis for its hubris. The tale of Atlantis, as told by Plato, is often interpreted as a moral allegory, a cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris and the consequences of losing sight of ethical principles. Some scholars argue that Plato's Atlantis was a fictional creation, intended to illustrate his philosophical ideas about the ideal state and the inherent flaws of human nature. Others, however, believe that Plato's account may have been based on historical events, possibly drawing from older myths or even real memories of ancient cataclysms. The dialogue Critias, where the story of Atlantis is more fully developed, remains incomplete, abruptly ending before the narrative reaches its conclusion. This unfinished nature of the text has fueled speculation and debate for centuries, leaving readers to wonder what more Plato might have revealed about the fate of Atlantis. Regardless of its origins, Plato's account of Atlantis has had a profound impact on Western thought, inspiring countless works of literature, art, and exploration. The story has been interpreted in various ways, from a lost utopia to a warning against the dangers of imperialism, and it continues to serve as a powerful symbol of the elusive nature of truth and the enduring allure of mystery. As we explore the origins and historical accounts of Atlantis, it is essential to consider the context in which Plato wrote these dialogues. The world of ancient Greece was one of intellectual ferment, where ideas about the nature of reality, the gods, and the ideal society were vigorously debated. Plato's Atlantis fits within this broader tradition, offering a narrative that challenges readers to think critically about the past, the present, and the future. The legend of Atlantis did not fade with the fall of ancient Greece. Instead, it persisted through the ages, finding new life in the texts and lore of the medieval period. During this time, Atlantis was often interpreted through the lens of Christian theology and medieval cosmology, shaping its legacy in ways that continue to influence modern perceptions of the myth. In the medieval era, knowledge of Plato's works, including his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, was preserved and disseminated primarily through the efforts of scholars in the Byzantine Empire and later in Western Europe. The fall of the Western Roman Empire and the subsequent rise of the Byzantine Empire ensured that many classical texts were kept alive, copied, and studied in monasteries and educational institutions. As these texts made their way westward, thanks in part to the Islamic scholars of the Abbasid Caliphate, who translated Greek works into Arabic, the story of Atlantis began to reach a broader audience. One of the most significant medieval references to Atlantis comes from the works of the philosopher and theologian Albertus Magnus, Albert the Great, a 13th century scholar who was deeply influenced by Aristotle and Plato. Although Albertus did not explicitly write about Atlantis, his extensive writings on natural philosophy, geography, and cosmology reflected the broader intellectual environment in which medieval scholars operated. In this context, the Atlantis narrative was often interpreted allegorically as a symbol of the transience of worldly power and the moral consequences of hubris. The Renaissance, a period of renewed interest in classical antiquity, further revived the legend of Atlantis. Renaissance thinkers like Marsilio Ficino, who translated Plato's works into Latin, played a crucial role in reintroducing the story of Atlantis to European scholars. Ficino's translations brought Plato's ideas, including the Atlantis myth, into the intellectual currents of the time, where they were studied alongside Christian and humanist thought. The integration of Atlantis into medieval and Renaissance worldviews often involved a synthesis of classical and biblical interpretations. For example, some medieval scholars attempted to reconcile the Atlantis myth with the story of the Great Flood in the Bible. They speculated that Atlantis might have been a pre-flood civilization, destroyed by the same cataclysm that wiped out much of humanity. This interpretation aligned with the Christian belief in the cyclical destruction and rebirth of civilizations as part of a divine plan. In addition to these scholarly interpretations, Atlantis also found a place in the popular imagination of the medieval period. Myths and legends about sunken lands and lost cities were common throughout Europe, and Atlantis became part of this broader tapestry of folklore. Stories of islands that appeared and disappeared in the Atlantic Ocean, such as the Isle of St. Brendan or the Phantom Island of High Brazil, were often linked to the idea of Atlantis, contributing to the legend's enduring mystique. The medieval fascination with Atlantis was not limited to scholarly or religious interpretations. It also inspired cartographers and explorers. Maps from the medieval and Renaissance periods sometimes featured speculative depictions of Atlantis, often placing it in the Atlantic Ocean or other uncharted waters. These maps reflected the era's spirit of exploration and the desire to discover new lands, a desire that was fueled in part by the enduring allure of lost civilizations like Atlantis. As the medieval period gave way to the Age of Discovery, the legend of Atlantis continued to evolve, adapting to new geographical knowledge and scientific advancements. Yet, throughout these changes, the core elements of the Atlantis myth, its depiction as a powerful, advanced civilization that met a sudden and mysterious end, remained central to its enduring appeal. The medieval references to Atlantis demonstrate how the legend was not merely a relic of the ancient world, but a living narrative that adapted to the intellectual and cultural currents of each era. These references also illustrate how Atlantis served as a canvas onto which each generation projected its own hopes, fears, and beliefs, ensuring that the myth would continue to captivate the imagination of future generations.